Good afternoon, students. Today we are going to continue with downstream processing. Yesterday we discussed about how to perform various processes. We discussed about what are the steps of downstream processing, and in detail we discussed the first step, that is separation of solids and liquids, or separation of cells, rather cell harvesting. So now the second step during downstream processing is disruption of cell or cell lysis to release the intracellular products. Okay. Sometimes the fermentation product that is formed is present inside the microbial cells. Okay, if the product is present inside the microbial cells, we need to break down the cell wall and cell membrane of the cells to extract out the product. So let us discuss how disruption of cell or cell lysis is performed to release the intracellular products. Separation of intracellular products like vitamins, enzymes, etc. need cell lysis for their recovery. The microorganisms or other cells can be disintegrated or disrupted either by physical or by chemical or enzymatic methods. Now, the selection of a particular method, whether physical method to be selected or enzymatic or chemical, depends upon the nature of the cells, because there is a wide difference, variation in the property of cell disruption or cell breakage. Okay, so what are the different methods? Physical methods of cell disruption, then chemical method and enzymatic method, right? So let us discuss the physical methods. Herein the microbial cells can be disrupted by certain physical methods to release the intracellular products. What are those? Ultrasonication, osmotic shock. Okay. Now, what is ultrasonication? Ultrasonic disintegration is widely employed in the laboratory. Due to high cost, it is not suitable for large scale use in industries. So, in the ultrasonicator, you have to add your cells and start the ultrasonication. So because of mechanical shear, the microorganism, because of mechanical shear, the speed at which you are sonicating or mixing them, the cell wall and cell membrane will crack and the materials will come out. So that is ultrasonication. Now, but it is a costly process. So on a large scale industrial fermentation, sonication is not possible. That is only practiced in laboratory. Now the next method is osmotic shock. See, osmotic shock means you have to place the cells first in a solution containing the different pH, and then in a cell, having a different salt concentration. Okay. So placing the cells in a different osmotic environment brings about the lysis of cells. Okay. So osmotic shock method involves altering the osmotic environment of the cell for their lysis. Right. Now the cell free from growth medium, the cells which you have harvested in the first step, are first suspended in a thick solution like say 20% sucrose or 20% buffered glucose. Right. Then immediately the cells are transferred to water. Say 20% sucrose means what? It contains a solute sucrose or solute glucose. So naturally the cells will experience a different osmotic environment because sugar is present in their outside environment. Now suddenly you take out the cells and place them in a solution in plain water at 4 degrees Celsius. So there is a variation in temperature also. At the same time, there is no solute present in the surrounding. So the cells suddenly experience an osmotic shock, osmotic difference, and hence there occurs lysis of the cell wall cells. Okay, the cell lysis occurs and cellular contents come out. Osmotic shock is used for release of hydrolytic enzymes and binding proteins from gram-negative bacteria. So it's a simple and effective method of extracting the cellular contents. Then the next is heat shock treatment. That means by heating you are going to lyse the cells. So heat shock treatment is also called as thermolysis. So cells are broken by subjecting them to heat. It is relatively easier You have to heat the cells, and it's a cheap process also, but this technique can be used only in case when the intracellular product is heat stable. If the intracellular product is heat sensitive, you cannot give heat shock treatment to microorganisms. Okay, so in heat shock treatment also, we heat the microorganisms, say up to a temperature, up to a very high temperature nearing about 100 degree, 90 to 100 degrees, and then suddenly cool the cells. Okay, so a sudden variation in temperature by about say 80 to 90 degrees Celsius will bring about cell lysis. Okay, so heating the cells, giving thermal shock to the cells will be helpful in extracting products that are heat stable, not heat sensitive products. Okay, then high pressure homogenization is another method. This technique involves forcing the cell suspension at high pressure through a very narrow nozzle or a narrow orifice to come out to atmospheric pressure. This sudden release of high pressure creates a liquid shear that can break the cells. Again, this is a mechanical shear method. Here, the suspension containing the microbial cells is allowed to pass under pressure through a narrow nozzle. There is a kind of a tube or a nozzle through which you pass the cell suspension, but at a very high pressure. Okay, and it comes out through a fine orifice. Orifice is a hole or a nozzle. Okay, and the cell suspension comes out through a very narrow nozzle, and there is sudden change in pressure inside the tube, inside the nozzle or inside the tube through which they are passing. There is a very high pressure, and as soon as they come out of the orifice, they experience a simple atmospheric pressure, and this sudden change in pressure creates a you can say hydrodynamic shear or a liquid shear, and that breaks the cell. The another physical method is grinding the microbial cells with glass beads. Okay, so there is a big vessel, reaction vessel, which is called as, so there is a reaction vessel in which there are glass balls or sometimes even steel balls, sterile steel balls are there. So you have to place the glass balls, and your microbial cells are present, and the microbial cells are mixed along with glass beads, or they are ground along with glass beads. Now, the cells mixed with glass beads are subjected to a high speed in a reaction vessel. When they are rotated at a very high speed, the cells break because they are forced against the walls of the vessel by the beads. So the glass beads forces the microbial cells to, you can say, collide. Okay, due to collision with the walls, they are forced against the walls of the vessel. Because they are forced against the walls of the vessel, again because of mechanical shear, the microbial cells will break. So all these are the physical methods like ultrasonication, osmotic shock, then high pressure homogenization, heat shock treatment, or grinding with glass beads are the physical methods of or mechanical methods of breaking the cell or cell lysis. Now next method is chemical methods of cell disruption. Here you use certain type of chemicals like alkalis, organic solvents, okay, like ethanol or methanol, phenol, like that, and detergents to bring about the lysis of the cells to release the cellular contents. Okay, so here we are going to use various chemicals like alkalis, organic solvents, detergents to lyse the cell. Alkali treatment has been used for extraction of some of the bacterial proteins. Say for example, recombinant growth hormone protein or growth hormone that is produced by recombinant E. coli can be efficiently released out of E. coli by treatment with NaOH, that is sodium hydroxide at pH 11. Then we can also use several water miscible, those organic solvents which can mix with water for the disruption of cells. Say for example, methanol, ethanol, isopropanol, butanol, all these water miscible, water soluble solvents are used for cell disruption or cell lysis. So alkali can be used, various organic solvents like ethanol, methanol, isopropanol, butanol can be used. We can also use certain detergents. Okay, ionic detergents which are ionic in nature like CTAB, okay, cationic cetyl trimethyl ammonium Anionic detergents like sodium lauryl sulfate can denature the membrane proteins and lyse the cells. Non-ionic detergents like Triton X100, Twin 80, Twin 20 can also be used for cell lysis or cell disruption. So we can use organic solvents like ethanol, methanol, butanol and propanol and all, isopropanol and butanol, etc. We can use alkali. We can also use certain detergents, non-ionic or ionic detergents for cell disruption or cell lysis. Cell disruption or cell lysis, if you want in a very gentle manner, so we can also use certain enzymes like lysozyme, then proteases, mannase, glucanases, or enzymes can also be used for cell disruption, that is called as enzymatic cell disruption. Lysozyme is the most common and frequently used. Lysozyme is the most common frequently used enzyme utilized for cell disruption. It hydrolyzes beta 1,4 glycosidic bond present in the mucopeptide layer of bacterial cell wall and hence brings about disruption of cells. Lysozyme is used along with EDTA also. Okay, so chemical plus enzymatic method. So lysozyme along with EDTA also helps in breaking the cell wall and cell membrane and taking out the cellular contents. Okay, lysozyme is commercially available, produced from egg white. Then there are certain other enzymes also which have been used frequently for cell disruption. Say for example of lysis cell, that is for the lysis of fungi, we can use glucanases and mannases in the combination with proteases. Okay, so enzymatic method of cell disruption. Now the third step during downstream processing is extraction. Sometimes we directly go for the fourth step, that is centrifugation, for concentration. So the third step, sometimes we go for extraction and then concentration, or sometimes we directly switch over to the fourth step, that is concentration. So let us discuss about the third step, that is extraction. So recovering a compound from a mixture or from cells into the solvent phase is called as extraction. So what is extraction? Recovery of the product or the compound from the mixture or from microbial cells, lysed microbial cells into solvent system is called as extraction. See, both separation and extraction of product is achieved in this step. Okay, now the first method is liquid-liquid extraction. Here we employ two immiscible liquids into which the product is differentially soluble. Okay, liquid-liquid extraction method involves using two liquids, two immiscible liquids, two liquids which do not mix with each other, like say phenol and water. Okay, so two liquids are used which are not which cannot mix with each other, which are immiscible, and into which the product is differentially soluble. See, generally small volumes of solvents are successively used for repeated extraction of the given sample. The extraction may be performed in single step or multi-stage parallel flow extraction or by counter current extraction. So to place your sample, or you can say disrupted cell and all, into the solvent and go on performing solvent extraction process in small volumes. Go on repeatedly performing the solvent extraction in small volumes. Extraction of compound in small volumes using a solvent. Now, the second method is whole broth extraction. Whole broth means what? The medium as well as the cells. See, this method reduces number of cells as well as product loss. This method reduces number of steps as well as product loss and hence should be used wherever possible. Here the whole broth extraction means what? Here the fermented broth directly is not subjected to solid liquid separation, is not subjected to cell disruption. The whole broth is directly subjected to extraction process. Okay, so it reduces the number of steps as well as product loss and hence should be used wherever possible. Then there is another method which is called as aqueous phase extraction. This method is employed for separating enzymes from cell debris. The enzymes are extracted in aqueous phase or aqueous polyethylene glycol dextran mixture where separate phases are formed. Okay, so enzymes are extracted in aqueous polyethylene glycol dextran mixture where separate phases are formed. Enzymes can be easily recovered from these phases. So here the solvent, here whatever solvent or whatever solution you are using is prepared using water, because as we say aqueous solution means it is prepared in water, it is not prepared in organic solvents. And in the aqueous phase we extract our compounds like enzymes. The next stage is concentration. See, more than 90% of the cell free supernatant is water. Okay, more than 90% of the supernatant is water, and desired product excuse me, is present in a very in this water, you can say more than 90% of the cell free supernatant is water. Here the desired product is a very minor constituent, it is very present in a very low concentration. So the water has to be removed to achieve the product concentration. Is that clear? So the liquid that is separated contains very low level of product, and hence we need to remove the water to get the product which is present in a very small concentration. So this is called as concentration step, wherein we remove the water. Okay, the product is concentrated to some extent during extraction process. Further concentration is achieved by evaporation, is the best and simple method to remove water. Again, liquid extraction process, membrane filtration, and precipitation and adsorption are the different methods by which we can remove water. Now, water in the broth filtrate can be removed by simple evaporation process. Various evaporators are used. The evaporators generally have a heating device to supply steam. Okay, so there is a heating device which supplies steam. There is a unit for separation of concentrated product and vapors, a condenser for condensing the vapors, and other accessories and all. So the evaporator generally consists of a heating device to supply steam. There is a unit where the concentrated product is separated and vapors are separated. There is a condenser which will condense the vapors, and other accessories to control the evaporator. So what we do actually in an evaporator, remove the water from the broth filtrate. Okay, some of the common evaporators that are used are plate evaporators, falling film evaporators, forced film evaporators, centrifugal forced film evaporators. So evaporator is a simple device wherein steam is supplied, water evaporates, okay, the vapors are collected and the product is concentrated. Concentrated product is collected in a separate chamber. Okay, another method of concentration is membrane filtration. Membrane filtration is a very common method for separation in industrial biotechnology. It can be conveniently used for separation of biomolecules and particles and for concentration of fluids. So membrane filtration is a very common practice nowadays in industries, and it is conveniently used for separating biomolecules or solid particles and for concentrating the fluids. Membrane filtration technique basically involves using a semi-permeable membrane that selectively retains the particles or microorganisms that are bigger than the pore size of the membrane, while the smaller molecules and the liquid pass through the membrane pores. Okay, so membrane filtration will utilize a semi-permeable membrane which will retain, okay, bigger particles or microorganisms, right, particles rather, molecules of the product, and the smaller molecules or the liquid will pass down through the membrane pores. Membranes which are used in filtration are made up of polymeric materials like polyether sulfone, polyvinyl difluoride. Okay? Now, it is difficult to sterilize these membrane filters which are made up of polyether sulfone or polyvinyl difluoride. Every time we perform filtration, we require sterilized membrane filters. So they are difficult to sterilize. So in recent years, microfilters and ultra filters composed of ceramics and steel are available, and cleaning and sterilization of such filters is easy. The other type of membrane filtration techniques are membrane adsorbers. They are micro or macroporous membranes with ion exchange groups and affinity ligands. Okay, most of the membrane adsorbers are having ion exchange groups. It is a kind of ion exchange chromatography where ion exchangers are present. Membrane adsorbers can bind to the protein and retain them. So when you pass the solution or a sample containing, say for example, protein, the membrane, because they have ion exchangers, they will retain the protein. Okay, and the rest of the material will flow out. Now the membrane, the proteins that were adsorbed on the porous membrane or ion exchanger can then be separated or can then be eluted out by employing various other solutions in chromatography. So ion exchange chromatography is utilized in membrane adsorbers, whereby we retain the desired product inside, which gets adsorbed on the surface of the ion exchanger and which can be easily removed by further employing various solvents. The other method is precipitation. Precipitation is also a commonly used method in industries for the concentration of proteins and polysaccharides, and for also for the removal of certain unwanted byproducts like nucleic acid, pigments, etc. Okay, so precipitation is commonly used in industries for the concentration of proteins and polysaccharides, and also for removing unwanted byproducts like nucleic acids and pigments. The product is precipitated using ionic polymers like polyacryl acid or polyethylene amine. It can be precipitated using neutral salts like ammonium sulfate. It can be precipitated out by using solvents like ethanol or acetone or propanol. It can also be precipitated by using non-ionic polymers like polyethylene glycol. Okay. So precipitation is commonly done for separating proteins and polysaccharides, wherein we can use various ionic polymers or non-ionic polymers, or even neutral salts like ammonium sulfate, or solvents like ethanol or acetone and propanol, and extract out, precipitate out the product, and the precipitate can be easily separated by filtration. So we will stop here. The next steps are, you can say, purification and finishing the product, that we will discuss in next lecture.